What's up, team, and welcome to the Kaisa Show.
That's right. Welcome. We are in a new space today. For those of you tuning in on video, we are in our studio space for the first time.
Which is very exciting. But I also just realized I can't say the round table at the end because we don't have that here.
So what are we going to say at the end?
I don't know. I'll figure it out when we get there.
We'll just go off the cuff.
We're going to flow.
I like it.
Okay. So today we're going to jump into what's buzzing. And I have to say, I've really been liking this. I think about what's buzzing in my life. Now I'm getting prepared for this topic each week. It
can make you more grateful throughout the week because you're like, oh, is this something I'm buzzing on right now? And you're like, I am buzzing on that.
Or it helps me to try new things.
Oh.
I think also because I'm like, I want to come with a cool buzzing topic to tell the crew and you. So it kind of pushes me to, did I try something new this week? Yeah.
You're in the search of a buzz.
Literally. Did you do that on purpose? Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, wait, what? In search of a buzz?
Because of my buzzing topic
this week. Hit him. Let's hear it. What are you buzzing on?
I feel like my buzzing topic might be controversial, but I don't know. I am buzzing on edibles this week.
You're buzzing on buzzing.
I'm buzzing on buzzing. And I don't know if this is controversial, so I don't know if this is okay to talk about.
Well, federally, it might be controversial. State, we are okay.
I am in Washington.
Yeah. It's legal.
So it's okay for me to talk about?
Be honest.
If you're going to judge me, you probably have already judged me on a lot of things. Also, you can judge me. That's fine. I'm here to be very honest about what's going on.
Yeah, we don't have to agree on everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
It's good to not agree on everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I am buzzing on marijuana edibles because for 36 years, I've been totally... What?
I thought you say for 36 years I've been searching for a good marijuana edible. You didn't go there.
No.
Okay.
I have been anti-marijuana and not aggressively anti. I don't care what people do, but for me personally, I just didn't enjoy being high. I don't like losing control of my body, I think. And so if you're drunk, I knew what that was.
It's kind of an on-ramp.
Is this okay for us to talk about?
Yeah, this is the behind the scenes. This is the real shit,
okay,
right?
This is very real, people. So recently, I have definitely known for a long time that I not for a long time, but recently that I have anxiety. I'm very high strung. I would benefit from an ability to just calm down, obviously meditate or do something, which is something I'm working towards, but just not in the books for me right now. And so I've been dabbling in a little bit of weed at night, which has been great. Now, when I say dabbling, I mean a week.
That's how both of us are, though. When we find something yesterday, we're like, we started doing this thing now. This is what we do. And we take it on and it's day one. Yeah.
It's been about 2 weeks. So the thing is I have a wonderful family member who has definitely helped me kind of navigate. So yesterday I went to the store. I went to the pot shop for the first time by myself. And I was like an awkward child. I felt like my parents I was going to get in trouble or something.
And it's weird in there too.
It's kind of weird and sterile. And you're like, I don't know if it was wonderful. They were so awesome. Helped me navigate things. I'm totally buzzing on that.
It's not like this at every pot shop that I've been, but there's definitely some of the people who work there, it is their life dream. They're the stoner who just is so into just getting stoned and they're totally content with that. To be able to have a professional career, you can tell how excited they are. I've gone in I'm just kind of having a little trouble sleeping. I want something to kind of take the edge off. They're like, oh yeah, the Thunder, the CBD, it's got a 20% CBD with the THC blend. And they're like pharmacists and doctors. Take it with a grain of salt, obviously, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's actually
It was actually fun. Yeah. I ended up spending about 30 minutes in there learning about. So the human that was helping me out was so intelligent about, it went over my head. I mean, they were talking about all these different strands and the terpenes and all these different, and I was like, well, I don't know. I'm trying to essentially,
to get high.
yeah. Well, no, not high. That's the thing.
Yeah. You're doing it for,
Well, I don't know,
Medical
honestly,
reasons.
and I don't even know. I don't do drugs, so I don't even know what like that means. I guess
Well,
I'm
you do
getting
now.
high. I do now.
Yeah.
Oh my
You
gosh,
can't say
you're
that
right.
anymore. Yeah.
And like alcohol is a drug.
Sure.
What I basically explained to them is I want to feel like I had one glass of wine at night without having that glass of wine, and obviously then without waking up feeling, like I had the glass of wine.
I just love, like, this is where we're at in the world. Like, can you imagine? Like, I was a big pothead when I was younger.
Oh, were
Yeah.
you?
And like bringing that to the drug dealer.
How? Yeah, they'd be like,
Hey man, so I'm just kind of looking for like a one glass of wine vibe, something that I can kind of sleep on, not feel too hungover, and something to play maybe like a little music with, and like that's where we're at. You could like lay out those kind of details and requests.
No, I know. So I guess, but the other thing, I mean, we don't have to go into like all the details of like that because obviously there's a problem that we try to control, marijuana and this and that. But it was amazing. I love the experience, and so far, 1 week in.
Yeah.
I'm
So
buzzing.
actually, what is the experience? Like, are you getting what you?
Yeah, I
like
think
kind of
so.
go into more
I'm
of that.
so weird when I'm like, do I feel anything? What's happening? And I'm home alone, so it's not like anybody's like, I'm just like, is this it? Is this what it feels like to me?
And is it good? Because you say you're buzzing on it. Like, is that okay?
You know what I've noticed? So I just like so the edible that they give you that I bought is a square.
Is it like a Starburst type of thing?
It's like, and I cut it into 4. So I take a quarter of what the edible is. So I'm probably getting nothing, but it helps me go to bed.
There you go.
So like if I turn on a show, I haven't even been finishing the shows because I'm tired and I go to bed.
just sawing logs, but that's good. That is like a good place to be. That's something I have a really hard time just like kind of falling asleep doing something, which sounds weird. Like, why would you want that? But that's like the ultimate relaxation.
Yeah.
Like my wife loves that. Like she
Yeah.
loves falling asleep while we're watching something. Like it drives me crazy. But it's like, it does seem so relaxing.
It is
because like you're just
relaxing.
letting go. And
And for me, like as somebody who cannot turn off their brain, like I just cannot. There is always, I call them like tabs. There's always tabs open in my brain. So for me to be able to have my experience 1 week in where I can feel like calm and just go to bed at night has been kind of life-changing so far, week 1.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, so far today, I don't feel like, let me think. Did you come with a different energy? You came actually with a pretty chill energy this morning. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe
Well, I came with such a chill energy. You asked me if I was high.
Yeah. Well, when you brought it up, I was like, wait, are you buzzing right now? Because you kind of looked through me a little bit. We lost like eye contact.
No, I am definitely, this is only like a tiny little thing at night occasionally.
But there is the potential for a future podcast to where maybe you dive in live test some of these.
Totally. I'm high on the podcast. We go like all out. I mean, we have talked about wanting to test things out and then like talk about it. So maybe that's fun.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. Enough of me buzzing. That was way over our 5-minute buzz.
I
Sorry.
like that because it's like you balancing it out.
You
a
were
little
kind of
bit.
buzzing on it too.
Yeah, totally. I was. You created a contact buzz. Is what they might call that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Your turn.
Okay, I am buzzing on the the Apple HomePod minis. I'm always like the product. I'm always thinking
You
of
are
the
the product guy.
I know.
Okay.
But look, I've been looking at those HomePod minis for like going on 6 months now because I'm always going between, should I get a Sonos setup? You got the Sonos. And then now Apple makes their little things. Here's the thing, I don't need it. That's why I haven't bought it because I'm just like, I have a speaker you already bought me like a year ago and it's great. And we use it all the
UE
time.
Boom is good, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I'm also buzzing on the UE Boom, right?
Yeah.
But for the studio in the space here, it's pretty big and we have the little Bluetooth speaker and it's like, we should get some Wi-Fi speakers so that like everyone can connect. It's easy. They pair. It's cool.
A phone call doesn't interrupt it.
Exactly. Notifications aren't on blast, all that stuff. And so we ordered a couple. We set them up. Didn't have to read the directions.
Yeah,
that was a
Apple's so
test. We said,
intuitive.
hey, can we not read the directions?
Yeah.
Can we set this up? It was a little, I will say it wasn't as quick as I thought it might be, but I just put my phone by the little HomePod mini and it kind of eventually it made a noise and recognized it on my phone, and then it just kind of like set up.
This is when I have to give Mike this cue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, and they're great because they play Kaisa's music really well. And
no, they come in cool colors.
The
sound is great. It doesn't go. Okay, I'm taking over your buzzing.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
I'm feeling this vibe today.
Kaisa.
It's cool.
No,
Go ahead.
No, I'm so
Preach.
sorry. No.
Buzz on.
No, that's no.
Oh, okay. Don't be embarrassed. You were excited. See, here's the thing. You were getting what you were thinking was a little tired, but really you were getting so inspired.
I wanted you to get to the thing.
So what else is cool about them?
Well, I think the colors are super cool.
Yep.
They're small.
They're really small.
They actually like look cool. A Sonos doesn't look that cool because it's kind of big and bulky, but these do not produce anywhere near the sound of a Sonos.
Yeah.
So they're perfect if you have a few to pair or if you want it in a smaller space. Like we're going to put one in our smaller office.
They're the size of a softball.
Yeah, and they're $100.
They're teeny, and they're $100.
Which, that is a thing.
Do you have a promo code?
No. Oh
So,
gosh, if
like,
only
use KaisaFit
Apple
at checkout.
Yeah, if only Apple would give me
That'd
a
be
promo
cool.
code. No, but I think audio things become so expensive now that $100 for a product like that sounds reasonable.
I agree.
Yeah.
So that's my buzz.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, we were buzzing on two very different things this
We were.
week.
I was, I had some other potential buzzes, but they didn't make the buzz cut. Ooh, the buzz cut. That's kind of fun.
The buzz cut should be used when we're done buzzing because we only are supposed to have 5 minutes. So buzz cut is on.
We let you go a little longer today.
Okay. I did take up
That's
that
cool.
space.
That's cool. Okay, so for today's episode, we thought we would go into sort of an episode geared towards trainers.
Yeah.
A lot of people who follow you are obviously interested in the fitness space. Probably a lot of people who follow you are trainers, aspiring trainers. And I thought it'd be really interesting for you to sort of go back in time about like how you got into it.
Yeah.
Things like what all the different certifications,
Yeah.
schooling, all those things.
This is fun because I feel like a lot of times when I have conversations, it's actually not geared towards trainers. So this is a good topic.
Totally. I feel like we're normally trying to like talk to Gen Pop, which is great. And as getting more people to move, I think that's the key. But the other, actually, as I just said that.
I know where you're
getting
going.
more people to move, you got to get other
trainers.
people to get other people to move.
1,000%. And I do love talking to trainers and just like kind of sharing my story. I feel like my story is a little unique. So we can go into bits and pieces of it, but it's unique in the sense of I happen to be, when I was a trainer and I was 6 years into being a trainer, social media came along. And so I had this very unique opportunity that I don't think exists in the same way today. And actually, I would like to dive into that when we get there, because it's like the number one question I get from trainers is, how do I build a bigger social media? And I want to say, like, don't focus on that. So we can get to that. Do you want to start off with the very beginning of my career? Or where should we go?
Let's just start with what I'm thinking. Do I even know what inspired? I don't even know if I know what inspired you actually to be a trainer. Maybe I do, but
yeah, you do. You'll know this when we talk about it. So my injuries in college inspired me to get certified, only to learn about myself and my body. And so I at that time, there's a handful of gold standard certs. NASM is one of them. And so I happened to pick that one and got certified, but never in any imagination was going to actually train humans. I wanted to just have ownership over my body and a better understanding about my body. And I was nannying at the time because I wanted to go back to school, get my master's, and I wanted to become a social worker. And the woman, Leslie, that I was nannying just kept asking me, like, can you train me and my coworkers? Like, since you're already doing this. And like, everybody always assumes if you're an athlete, you're a trainer as well, which couldn't be further from the truth. And so she was always like, you know how to do all this stuff. Can you just do a boot camp for us? And finally, I was like, okay, Leslie, I'm going to do one class for you and your 5 women that you work with. And literally 10 minutes into the class, I was like, this is the best thing ever. Because I knew I wanted to work with humans. It was a handful of things where you're like, from the out, like if a bird's eye view, you're like, this is so obvious, Kaisa. I loved movement. Movement has saved my life. I loved learning about my body and kind of like recovering myself from my own injuries. I always have wanted to work with people, especially women. That's why I thought I wanted to be a social worker. I have had an experience of movement completely changing my life and empowering me. And so it was in that moment where I was like, oh my gosh, all of these things are coming together. Like, I get to teach the thing that I love. I get to give the gift that kept me alive to others. I get to empower these women. And it literally happened in one boot camp that was at Woodland Park on the turf fields.
Which one is that?
Green
the one
Lake,
with,
Green
oh,
Lake
okay,
in Seattle.
yeah.
It just to me is like, and it feels like it was yesterday. So in that moment, I knew I was like, oh yeah, hands down, this is what I'm going to do. So then, had a kind of a crazy route inside of there to be at Zoom, which is where I started an internship there because I just felt like I didn't know enough. But also for me, leading to like, I always wanted to be a trainer because I wanted to give that side of the gift of training and movement to others. But most of the industry, and especially kind of where I was learning and where I was in the beginning, was like, you train to help people feel better, but also to change the way they looked. So I've had a very not an easy route to where I am today and sticking with like my true message the entire time.
Going back to just sort of the cert, for instance, like what made you choose NASM, and then how was that? What was that process like?
Yeah. So we say like there are 5 gold standard certs, even though there are a lot more certifications. And one of the facts about becoming a personal trainer is it's easier to be a personal trainer than it is to become a nail technician. Like it's pretty easy to be a personal trainer. And so for me, I wanted to go the route of feeling like, I didn't graduate with kinesiology or anything about the body. I graduated with a degree in sociology. And so I felt I was very, as my perfectionist self, I was very insecure about a lack of knowledge. So
you went to, just pause. So you went high school, you went to UW.
Yep.
Right?
I went to University of Washington.
Sports.
Yes.
Then after getting out.
After graduating.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like that year I was nannying. I think it was like after my senior year. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was talking to other social workers to be like, is this what I want to do? I was just trying to figure out, you're supposed to know in college what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to be a professional athlete. So I was like, I thought I had that figured out. Little did I know, obviously, like even if I was a professional athlete, you wouldn't even get paid enough, unfortunately, as a woman to have that as your career. But whatever, naive Kaisa at 21 years old. So that's when I figured it out. I don't even know how I landed on NASM, but there are a few certs. So ACSM, you have to have an actual degree. Like I would have had to have a kinesiology degree. NSCA was strength and conditioning and is a more difficult certification. And so I just kind of ended up with NASM. And I
any
love
of them, sorry.
Yeah.
Are any of them like in person, or is it all like, how do they work?
So I actually don't know. Like I'm almost positive NSCA there's an in-person, and ACSM there's like in-person testing that happens, but I actually don't know. NASM, so NASM, I don't think NASM would appreciate if I said that. NASM is it was all like I had to learn it, and then I had to just go take the test at a testing center. And so then you become a certified trainer. And the scariest thing, you become a certified trainer and you've never trained anybody in your entire life. And so for me, that was part of the reason why I was like, Leslie, no, I don't want to do a boot camp. I don't even know. I'm learning the information, but I'm a good I can like regurgitate information, but that doesn't mean I actually knew what was happening. Like I don't know how to coach a squat or a lunge and then I have to manage a whole, like there were like 5 women. Like, what am I doing? But, we figured it out. And then for me, what it meant was I wanted to be interning and around the best of the best, because the moment I decide to do something, competitive Kaisa, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be the best. So, I decide I want to be a trainer. I'm going to be the best trainer. So the time for me, Club Zoom in downtown Seattle was known for their kind of like take on movement and fitness. And I was surrounded by the best trainers there.
So what I'm pulling, just because I want this to be like, in case there's potential trainers or trainers in the, interested in getting into training. So you did NASM and you realized that's not enough to just start training people. I need to go intern, which is kind of what they try to set you up with, right? Is like, go intern somewhere, or is it not? I forget.
I honestly, that was a long time ago. That was like 12, 13 years ago. So I don't remember if that's where they tried to navigate you to. I think it kind of feels like, okay, you're ready to go. And it depends on the studio or the space that you're in. I knew right away that if I was insecure about being a trainer, then like when I stand in front of somebody as the authority, like that wouldn't work very well.
Yeah.
And so I was training, I forgot, I was actually training at All Star Fitness in West Seattle while I was doing the internship at Zoom, because Zoom wouldn't bring you on as a trainer until you had done the internship and quote unquote proven yourself to be a good enough trainer to be there. So I have always had a drive to want to be the best at whatever I'm doing. And so I knew at that point in time, I've got to figure out what the best studio is. I've got to figure out where the best trainers are. And then I've got to figure out also where else I can continue my education. So a huge thing that I always say to people, especially like up and coming trainers, is there are so many certifications or, mentors, like people that you can learn from, workshops that you can go to where you can learn so much about the body. You can also learn, because the training industry is so big, you can learn what you're passionate about. You can learn about things that resonate with you. Like maybe all of a sudden you love kettlebells and like that's the route. You become like a kettlebell trainer and you go down that route. So once you get one of your, I will say, gold standard certs, I would say your education continues based on what you decide to push yourself towards.
Yeah, because it's just a start. And with how much changes with science and the body and what what should be, lots changed over the last like 15
changes
20 years
every day.
Yeah, so it's super important to continue. It's not like you just get the cert and you're ready to go.
No, and you're not. And not to like dive too far away from this, but I do think a lot of the big egos that happen kind of in our industry, and the fitness industry is known for just kind of having like, I don't want to say like douchey, but like not the nicest people, just because I think there's so many of us that are trying to cover up our insecurities because we actually know we don't know that much, and then we feel insecure about it. So we have these egos. So clients or nobody asks us any questions, and it creates an unhealthy environment in general. So I would definitely say you getting your certification is the start of your learning process, and then who you are underneath, like who you are interning under, who you're mentoring under, what other certifications, what other courses you go to is the difference of you becoming a really, really good trainer or staying a basic trainer.
Yeah. And what does that mean? What's a basic trainer?
I mean, no knock to any trainer. I guess I think that this market is so saturated now that like in order for you to actually succeed and have this your full-time job, and some trainers don't want it their full-time job, but in order for you to make this your career, you've got to go above and beyond. And in order to go above and beyond, like you're going to have to push yourself to constantly be learning and to be surrounded by people who you're learning from and who you're pushed by.
Yeah.
That was one of the coolest things about being at Zoom. I wanted to quit every single day because I was so uncomfortable and nervous that somebody was going to ask me about something. I didn't know the answer, and it pushed me. It fueled me so much to learn. Like I spent basically all my money, like Mike Robertson or Eric Cressy or like all these kind of like old school coaches that I was learning from. I would buy their DVDs. That's how long ago it was. And I would learn, and I would like try to figure out how to program, because that's a whole nother thing. You might know the human body, but do you know how to program for like certain clientele coming in? So yeah, just crazy. But like in order for you to stand out and to be able to be successful, you have got to be pushing yourself. You have got to be on your A game, and you've got to constantly be evolving.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like, because I got my NSM last year, I think, or maybe it was 2 years ago.
Did.
I think it was last year. You pushed me to get it.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is when you tell people, you're like, oh yeah, like I got my cert, and they're like, oh cool, like can you train me? And it made me think like, just like friends, just like that we'd be talking about it, and I'd be, yeah, no, I don't think I'm ready for that yet, and what it really, it also showed is that everyone's going to come to you with a different kind of ability, a different, how they can move, their experience. And so if you're just sort of if you've only learned to teach like one style, and you get someone that's really beginner, like in my experience, just training a few friends, like training beginners is by far the hardest.
It's the hardest, absolutely. And also, I mean, I think that's why, like in order for even with Start or something, I feel like being able to have the experience that I've had, and the only way you get that is by training more and more people. You can't read enough books to tell you how to train people. But I think that one of the best things that one of the founders of Zoom said to me, he was like, if you have to have a language, and you have to be able to say something a million different ways so that the client understands it. It's not on them to know how to squat. If you are not communicating, if you don't have a toolbox of 1,000 ways to describe a squat, then you're failing them, and that's on you. And so for me, I always I think I was just like set up to train beginners from the very beginning. Like one, it was like, I loved it. I loved that challenge. Like I understood what Pete was saying to me in that moment and I took it on. And I just like coming from somebody who felt so empowered through movement, like I realized so quickly the changes that happens when beginners, like when true beginners start moving in their body and like start feeling their body and then get excited about things and empowered about things. So I was set up from the beginning to coach beginners, but it is a huge learning process to learn as much as you possibly can to break it down to the simplest thing and to be able to have a million words to break that thing down.
So if someone is listening and they really want to teach beginners.
Yeah.
We just kind of went through a bunch of stuff. How would you break that down? Like get your cert and then what after that?
Yeah. I mean, I think the number one thing I say is like, make sure you are accredited. So get your certification, do your internships, learn underneath people, get your experience and get as much diversified experience as you can because the training industry is so big. You know what I mean? Like, do you want to be a rehab specialist? Do you want to coach group classes? Do you love coaching beginners? Do you want to do kettlebells? Do you want to do sports performance and like train athletes? For some reason, like that's always what from the outside, where like people always think like, oh, you're going to go into training and then you're going to train athletes. Like, no, there's some of us that love to train general pop. Like there's so many different avenues that you can go, but you won't know that until you start experiencing them. So like for me in the beginning, the very first clients that I was training were very beginners. I did this whole process of like 6 years to come back, or even more, because I'm still in my career going all over the place, but to come back to realize like I am most passionate about getting Susie Q off the couch and moving. No matter who I have trained, like that's the thing that brings the best out of me. That's the thing that I'm the best at. And that's the thing that I want to do the most.
Yeah.
So go have experiences. Mm-hmm. Like, and don't pigeonhole yourself. Go experience.
And don't necessarily think that teaching beginners is the easy, like because it's the easiest, say, movement or whatever. It's not the easiest thing to teach.
Or that training athletes means that you've reached your pinnacle, or that you're, the best of the best. I mean, you all trainers are equal. Depending on like who you're training doesn't matter. All trainers are equal. And I think for us inside of the industry, there's definitely kind of this tug and pull with if you're training athletes, you must be the best of the best. And that's just simply not the case at all. But I definitely think the number one thing would be just go have experiences, go find internships, and go find people you can mentor under so that you can have all the experiences to lead you back to the thing that you're most passionate about. Because here's the other thing, and not to go on another tangent, I think one of the things that's so important for trainers to kind of own is that you have so much power when you're standing in front of your clients and you're put there to help them, that you better be doing something that you're really passionate about. Like you better be showing up because you love being in that space. So it's on you to figure out what is your favorite thing? What is the thing that you're best at? What is the thing that pulls the best out of you? And I think like that's on you to figure out and we need more trainers to do that because we know the world needs to change and become more healthy, but so it's on trainers to go for their own like little journey to figure that out.
Damn, I wanted to just go start training more.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
That's a good motivational speech.
Yes. But that is the thing. Like I just like, and people who really truly love training, like understand, like, and you'll understand it's the most freeing thing. I'm sorry, I'm moving the couch all around.
So you're getting excited.
Yeah, I am, because it's the most freeing thing to finally be like, okay, I'm actually in the thing that I'm the best at. Or it brings out the best of me, not necessarily I'm the best at. I'm so passionate about this thing, it doesn't even feel like work anymore. Change is happening left and right in the clients that are coming in. Like, there's no better feeling than that. If you were meant to be a trainer, that is the epitome of the best feeling ever. But for me personally, it took me 7 or 8 years to realize that like it wasn't about training athletes. Mm-hmm. It wasn't about, being on TV or whatever, all these other things. It was about owning the things that I brought to my clients and then feeling like I'm never going to be the smartest fucking trainer in the room. I went back and got my master's in sports performance and still felt like an idiot.
Yeah.
And I finally was like, you're never going to be the smartest trainer in the room, ever. Your brain is not set up like that. But what's just equally as important is being somebody that's super passionate about what you're doing. Being a cheerleader, I'm like a professional cheerleader. Being somebody that like in that hour can focus in solely on that person, can listen to them, can take care of them, can create can make creative workouts. I started owning that and feeling like, okay, I am really creative with my movement, and people stay moving with me because it's creative and fun. So just like owning other things that you're good at, and you will never find those unless you go out and experience all that the training industry has to offer.
Yeah, you have to learn by doing things you don't like also. It's not just finding the things you like.
Absolutely. And I think that was for me. So my career, when I was at Zoom, and I eventually left Zoom to run my own business because I had started what I call smart training, and it was group but individual training, and I loved it and I wanted to do my own thing. But it was also with my depression, and I just came to a moment where I was like, this isn't all of it for me. Like, there is something missing. And I'm so like visceral. When something is missing, I like feel it and know it. And just like, I couldn't move past it, even though I was making great money and I did love what I was doing. So that's when I went back to school and got my master's in sports performance. But for me, I would have never, day 2 in my internship, I was like, oh no, I made a terrible decision to quit my own business, not make any money while I'm in my internship, and because I had to be in my internship as I was going back to school. But that was the most solidifying moment of my life to be like, I love training general population. Not a single thing has ever deterred me after that moment. So the $60,000 that I spent in my sports performance, degree, whatever, was the best money I've ever spent, because it propelled me so far forward in what I wanted to do and who I wanted to get moving.
It's good.
It is good. Yeah.
Good. It's interesting. So kind of going back a little bit, something popped in my head when you were talking about just the difference of training athletes and beginners. There's almost seems like there's a distinction between programming and like teaching movement. Mm-hmm. And it's and I think that's actually like, I'm curious how you would break that down, because I think a lot of trainers or a lot of people are going to have different expectations of like, they can probably move really well, but they just don't know how to program how to move, and how to move for, a cycle or whatever. And then on the flip side, if you're sort of a good programmer, but you actually don't know, you're kind of expecting them to show up knowing how to move, that can like put the brakes on real quick, because you're like, oh, you don't know how to deadlift properly. Like,
this is why when I say like the training industry is so complicated, and why it's so overwhelming as an incoming trainer to think that you have to know movement, you have to be able to work with human beings, you're expected to like know nutrition, you have to know how to program things out. So for me personally, I am not a good programmer. I am a great programmer to help general population move safely and have fun moving. I'm a great programmer for that because I love it. When it comes to the nitty-gritty details of, sports performance programming and the science that goes behind all of that, I totally am not the best programmer at that, because also I'm not the most passionate about that. So I will say, like, there are some great, fabulous trainers that are not good programmers, or they're people that can communicate movement to people and can really connect with people and pull the best out of people that aren't the best programmers. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to be everything. I went on a tangent. I forgot your original question.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's just like being either one of those is okay. Like, so even putting that in your thought process, like, do I, as someone who wants to become a trainer, and this is like, for me, I guess this is why it's coming up, because I have 2 certifications now, and I don't know what I'm doing with it. I kind of similar to you. It's just like, I want to know how to move safely and efficiently for myself.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting because I'm training with someone who has never lifted a kettlebell. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, this is really interesting. But so there's been a lot of, I think what I'm more interested in is actually teaching someone how to move versus the programming aspect.
So you bring up something. Let me go back to, you said that. As a trainer, your job is to teach them how to move. Your job is to teach them how to move in their body and to understand their body before we add equipment or anything that makes it more complicated. That is your job. And so I think first and foremost, that's always the number one thing that you have to be able to do. Unless you are just hired to be a programmer, like, fine.
Is that a thing?
I don't know. Actually, like, as you're saying this, because the thing for me is I always collaborate. If there's certain specific things, like what's going to be coming up for us, I collaborate then because I always want to be able to bounce things off. I do know, like, there are certain people that create programs and they're dull and they're boring. And so you can have a whole clientele coming in and it could be the best program in the world, but because they don't enjoy doing it, they're not going to do it. You know what I mean? So I think it matters who you're doing it. I know I bring that aspect. So who I'm collaborating with, like, we're such a good mix because he brings a lot of that science, and it's sports performance related, it's results related. So it has to be programmed out, particularly, but I also want to have a lot of fun.
You bring
doing
the fun.
I bring the fun. But just to go back to that, just so that we put a period on the end of that, you do need to teach your clients how to move in their body. There are a handful of movements and movement patterns that they need to know how to do before you add anything else. So the basics of movement is like not even to worry about programming first, but is to get a human being comfortable and confident inside of their body.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And connected to their body. And I think that's what, like, as trainers, we make really complicated, by adding all these other things. Like, body weight movement, until that human feels super comfortable and confident in their body, is the best thing for them.
Yeah. And I think something I've been paying attention to a lot over the last year is like the language that good trainers use. And
It's simple.
Yeah. And just diverse. Like, there's other options. And I didn't click for me until recently, working out with a friend, where he wasn't getting something. And I was like, gosh, what I keep saying doesn't work. So why do I keep saying that same? Like, it's not like he's just going to get what I'm saying. I have to switch what I'm saying.
I mean,
and I think I kind of borrowed a term and kind of made it a different thing. And I was like, oh, that's what worked for you. And there was this light bulb moment that I had where I was like, that's why trainers like a Tony Horton, this, he had so many like lines back in the P90X video days where we would repeat, like my brothers and I would do those workouts and we would like repeat them to each other. But I was like, oh, yeah, that's why. Or like when people say like, open the drawer, close the drawer with your butt, like these different visuals to get people to understand.
Absolutely.
Not I'm lifting a weight, I'm doing a movement. Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting. And you have a lot of these, which is really great.
And I mean, there's certain things like for me as a trainer, what I kind of had this rule in my head that was I want my clients to walk out of the training session feeling way better than they came in. So I was not going to nitpick everything. I was always going to set up a safe environment, like one, not loading anything. So having them do their body weight stuff, that means that they don't have to have like, there's no such thing as perfect movement, but they don't have to have perfect movement because it's already a safe environment. I would give them 2 cues. If they didn't get it, I wouldn't keep bashing it into their head. We would move on to something else. And then in my mind, because if I wasn't quick enough to fix it, I'd be like, oh my gosh, great job. Okay, let's go do something else. And then, so for me, like my number one goal wasn't for them to have perfect movement patterns. My number one goal was for them to walk out of our training session, our 1-hour training session, feeling so good about themselves. And so what that meant was that I was constantly setting up an environment that they were going to succeed in. And if they weren't succeeding, it was on me to switch it up. And if I couldn't figure out a cueing or something different or, change in their movement pattern to fix it, I moved on to the next. And so I never was married to the program or anything that I was doing because what was most important to me was that they were super empowered in what they were doing. So there's different value systems and it depends on the trainers. Like if I'm training Serge, that's not the value system there. Like the man can move and every little minor thing that we're doing is making him a better athlete or, knock on wood, potential of injury. So I think it just depends on who you're training and it depends on the environment that you're in.
Yeah, that's a good tip for trainers listening though, is that at least in your case and what a lot of people might really want to focus on, especially early on, is create a fun environment. Like create an environment where they leave going like, I like the movement, I want to go back. They came to move. They didn't come to perfect the deadlift today. And of course there's some situations where people are literally trying to perfect a deadlift.
Yeah, later on.
I'm assuming new trainers are not training that, but I think that's a good point.
You will, especially as you are in a position, if you're in a position where you're trying to gain clients, you will gain so many more clients, not by spouting out all of these terms and all these technical things because you want to feel better about what you know and you want to come across as that kind of authority figure. But instead, if you make them feel so damn good about who they are and what they're doing, and that is on you. Because no matter where you're at, just think about it. When somebody had a conversation with you, when you're at the coffee shop and they smiled at you and they laughed at your joke, like you feel like $1 million when you walk out the door. That's your job. Like that is your fucking job as a trainer, is to make people help people, give them the tools to feel better about themselves and better about the body that they're in, and to learn that and to set up that environment for that to happen.
That makes me think of, we've talked about this, speak the language that they understand. Like don't engage your latissimus dorsi, or, you know, like there's definitely that training group and whatever. Like it's not like I'm shots fired towards that, but like I do, at least when you're training Gen Pop, I think like one thing you've talked a lot about is like, let's not talk about what muscle is getting engaged. Like use terms that they just understand. And
because the thing is, in that moment, they don't feel better about themselves. They're fucking confused. They don't know what you're talking about. You maybe like feel a little bit better about yourself, which is like, you need to check your ego then at the door, because you're in that training session for them. They are paying you to help them. It does not make anybody most people don't know all the muscles in your body. It does not help them. And if you're there to help them, if you're there to set up the best environment for them to succeed, then fucking use language they understand. It's the most frustrating thing to me. If you are training, other trainers or athletes or this and that, then like, again, know your client. If your client has said like, hey, Mike, I love learning about the body. So when you're giving me cues and you're telling me things, can you tell me about what muscles are firing X, Y, and Z? Great, then so be it. Mm-hmm. But like most people, when they're learning how to move, that is not helpful.
Yeah.
That actually deters, that puts them in their head. Then they think they're failing. They're already embarrassed to be there. Like movement is such a finicky thing for people. Like people are already so self-conscious about movement. They don't know and they think they should know. So like just set up a safer environment for them.
Yeah. Passionate.
I know. I'm sorry. I get really passionate about this. I know. Sorry.
No, it's so
sorry.
good.
I am very passionate about it.
Just because you said Surge, as if everyone knows who Surge is or what that was, let's just dive into that. Like, so you've trained Gen Pop, you've trained athletes. Let's talk about this little journey you went on with.
So I've taken a few journeys to train athletes, because there was moments in my career where I felt like there was something missing. And when I feel like something's missing, I just have to move in a direction to figure out what it is. Now, the first time that was going back to school. So I did get to train college athletes, and I was in there training them.
Because that was part of the program.
That was part of the internship. Yep, exactly. And then this happened in, I think, 2018 or 19. So Serge Ibaka, who it came after the Raptors had just won the championship. So the NBA team, NBA championship. So he had reached out and asked me to train him in his off season.
How was that? So, okay, just you're doing your thing.
Yeah.
NBA player just hits you up. Like where? Yeah. How did this even come about?
Well, we had some communication through social media, just because I think he really liked the way that I was moving. Like a lot of it was kind of, I think, like my mobility stuff and just how I could move. He is somebody who appreciates movement. Like, and I didn't know this, but as I started to train him, like he just really appreciates movement in general, and he's very aware of his body. And so like I think he started to see what I was doing and was like, as I get older, he was saying this, I want to be able to move like that in my body, because I know that part of me being able to have a lasting career is to be able to be really aware of my body and like recover my body and take care of my body in a different way. And I don't want to just hammer it all the time. So I think he saw what I was doing. So we had communication over social. I communicate with a lot of athletes. Like people respect what we're kind of like in a playing field where we respect what other people are doing. So he asked to have a call.
Like this isn't his manager or anything. This is just him.
No, this is him.
That's pretty dope. I didn't actually. I mean, I don't think we've actually had this conversation.
Yeah. I still remember where I was. It was after a training session, and I was like, okay. And I took the call, and I'm not gonna lie, I was like, no. In my mind, not to him, because I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, whoa, this is he had just come off a championship season. Like, again, the number one thing that interferes me is like my, failure. Like I'm going to fail at this. Something's going to happen. I'm not good enough. My imposter syndrome, all these things. So I call my friend boss, and boss is like, you dumb bitch. Like, absolutely no, you're not saying no. That is like once in a lifetime opportunity. You have worked your entire career to get to this moment. You don't back down because you are afraid. Like you figure it out. And like, boss is very encouraging. So it wasn't like negative, but like you are ready for this. You figure this out. He asked you. you go do this thing. It also happened to be when Craig and I had just been in partnership together. So it was like all these things were happening, and I was
I remember you were out of town all the time.
I was out of town that whole summer.
I'm super available. We can do this whenever you want. Just by the way, I got to leave for like a month.
Not a month. It was like 4 months.
Well, I think it was like, but you'd be back for like a weekend, and then you'd be gone again.
Yeah. So, okay. So this goes also down to programming and like figuring out. So I knew what he wanted. I knew what I was really good at, and I knew what I wanted to do with him. And I had a coach that I really, really respect kind of look over my programming and see if, and he had worked with basketball players and just like see what he thought. And it was all great. But like that helped me feel good and confident about what I was doing.
Pause real quick. I'm just curious. So this programming, was it more recovery based, or was this like all?
No,
of
I was
his
in charge of all of his programming.
And was it just you?
Or it was just me.
That's cool.
I was in charge of his entire off-season program. So I literally was with him, and the man traveled. So, you know, we were Barcelona, Toronto, New York, LA, we were everywhere. I was everywhere with him that summer. And it was a very humbling experience. I want to say I enjoyed every minute of it. I didn't enjoy every minute of it. It was a very humbling experience. It was such an honor, first and foremost. Like I got to go to one of like the NBA training center in New York, and I forget what it's called, and train out of there. And I am the only female in there, and people are looking at me and then probably looking at him like, what are you doing? But like, he really trusted in me, what we were doing. He was playing amazing. Like he was feeling great. It was all great. But for me, what I realized was I really love what I am doing and what I am building and what I'm creating. And as much of an honor as it was to work with an athlete at the peak and prime of his career, and something that so many trainers that would be their epitome of success. It wasn't for me. I just like, again, solidified. I love what I'm doing, trying to get the world to move and trying to get people to get up off their couch and be, you know, encouraged and empowered in their body. And it just like, it was like the nail in the coffin for me on that one. Like I knew I came back from that. Well, and then the pandemic happened, but I came back so clear-minded about what I wanted to do for, you know, the rest of my career. Like this is the most important thing to me, is just move and really giving people an avenue to start moving.
Which again, going back to like, you have to do the things.
Absolutely.
You have to do all the things so that you know what you also don't want to do, which can solidify what you do want to do.
My biggest learning lessons have been from doing the things that either like I didn't want to do, or I pushed so far out of my comfort zone to coach him. You know what I mean? Like there were so many things for me that were personal successes by saying yes to that opportunity and to be there and to do that, and then to watch him, you know, come off of that whole training and to like for him to feel amazing. And that was an incredible experience. It just also solidified that I know what I'm most passionate about. I am very passionate about that, and you know, training him was amazing, but I am more passionate about getting people who are not moving to move.
And that took you, like, maybe there is a balance that you could strike or something in the future, but like at that point, that's too much. Like you have to kind of just be in that camp. Is that what I'm hearing?
You have to 100% just be in that camp. Yeah. You would be, you know, you basically are hired. You're a trainer at that point in time for athletes. And so, you know, I could go the route of like having a studio and just training athletes, or being like just with that athlete solely. And it was just something that I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do for my career.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But it was an incredible experience. He is amazing. Like the whole thing was incredible. I would never, ever take that experience back. Like that is once in a lifetime. I met amazing people, had the best time doing it.
Yeah. What did it like? I don't know. Give a little. What did the programming look like? Was it 7 days a week? Was it 5 days a week? I mean, obviously not the reps and sets, but
blacked out.
Was it a lot of mobility?
Yeah, we did a lot of recovery work. It was a lot of just kind of like fine tuning things. I think for him, like he wanted routines and things that he would be able to comfortably do when he was on the road. We did a lot of mobility work and just helping him. He's not old, but he's in the second part of his career. And so luckily for me, there wasn't a lot of I didn't have to convince him. There was already buy-in to like, how do we really take care of your body? This isn't about in the off season going ham. It's about being able to maintain and possibly like get a little better, but really maintain where you're at, because you're at such a high level already. And that means, you know, definitely recovery and mobility work and just feeling better inside of his body, taking care of his joints. But we did all of our strength work and our power work and our agility work. And
is it all based off of like, at that level, is it like you're basing it off of what he's doing, like how he's moving as a basketball player.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the thing is with a lot of athletes, especially basketball players, I mean, he's unique, but they're not, when they have a ball in their hand, they're really good athletes. But when you take them off of the court, and I definitely learned this in college, they don't actually have a lot of understanding of their body. And so it's really dangerous to start loading, putting weight on these athletes who have no understanding of their body. And that wasn't Serge's case, but for him, it was keeping him super healthy. And then you're constantly monitoring everything else that's going on in their life, right? So they're not just training with you. They're doing their skills practice. They're doing, like, for him, he has like all of his media stuff. So stress becomes a factor. So it was just being like it's really important to be really in tune with them and to understand, like, they're showing up today and this is what I have on the program, but like, this ain't about to happen. And if it happens, it's not going to be a good thing. Like, in my mind, the biggest thing was for him to stay healthy and to feel good in his body. And that was always like at the top of my list when it came to what we were doing. And obviously that's at the top of every trainer's list, but there's a lot that goes into these athletes that have also like these careers outside of their athletic career.
Yeah. They've got a whole, like,
and then traveling, you have to take traveling into account all the time. And, they're tired from that. And like, I think that's why I realized, like, it's so much more than just training. It was like managing this person's life. And that wasn't for me.
And so the difference of, like, it seems like you have specialized training where you're really working with someone specifically, like knowing the ins and outs of like how they're moving or how they want to move, versus Gen Pop training is more of like just generally like you're moving, which is good for whatever you're going to be doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it goes down to like, there's even like group class instructors and movement for the sake of movement and movement for the sake of having fun, or movement because you want a specific result. Like there's lots of performance results that eventually when my women would come in and start to move and feel comfortable and confident and, started to enjoy movement, then they want a result. And they're like, I want to be able to do a pull up or push ups, or, I really want to like heavy deadlift. And so that would just allow, like, that guided me in their programming. But the first and foremost, when I had clients coming in, was always like, how do I keep them? How do I get them coming back for more? And so that's what I navigated first. And then once you're bought into movement, I mean, once you start moving, the rest is history. Well, as long as you have a good time, but yeah, I guess the rest is not history. But once they're bought into what we're doing, then it got to be really fun. Then it got to be like, what do you guys want to work on? Do you want to like run a half marathon? Do you want to like deadlift? See how heavy you can deadlift? You want to do push-ups, pull-ups? You want to do like crazy agility things? Like, what do you want to do? Let's explore things.
So the takeaway from all that is that in your belief, or at least your path, is like, just get them in, get them having fun, and happier than when they showed up.
Yeah.
And then the rest will sort of fall in place.
My takeaway is that when you are not training clients to change the way that their body looks, the world is your oyster. It is so fucking fun to pull that off of the plate and then be like, how can I get you to be a happier, healthier, more empowered version of yourself through movement? And that's your goal and that's your job.
So that's probably not typically the case. A lot of people come in going, I just really want to lose this 10 pounds, or this 20 pounds or 30 pounds or whatever. So what do you say to those people? Like, that's going to come up.
Oh yeah. Rookie Kaisa. I mean, that's why we've said this. I've talked about this before. Like initially I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. Go train with so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, because I don't do that. Like
send them off.
Yeah. Send them off.
Yeah.
Like I don't do weight loss. I've never done that. Didn't do that. And then I started, I look around and I have no clients. So that's not going to work, because 90% of people coming into a gym are coming in because they want to change the way they look. And I had an epiphany moment of just being like, oh, okay, I have to be the parent, which means I'm going to meet you where you're at. You could come to me and say like, hey, I really want to get like chiseled abs and I want to lose 20 pounds. And like, what's the program? I want to start training with you. And I'd be like, all right, cool. Let's start training. I'd never co-sign it. Like, all right, cool. Let's start training. Then we like start training, and we don't really like all the conversations that you bring up about like, yeah, cool. Like this diet or this diet. And I'd be like, no, or I'd send you to like a nutritionist that I actually believed in. But I just never co-signed any of those conversations. And eventually they kind of fade away. And for me, my entire goal was to set up an environment where they would start to be empowered with what their body could do rather than what it looked like. And slowly those things fade away. And I just never was the source of co-signing that there was something wrong with their body based on what it looked like. And every person has their own journey on that. But when they were in my space and when I was training them, that was never going to be a topic. So, and even if they wanted to talk about it, like I got to the point where I could understand, like, I can't tell you not to talk about it. That's a thing that's happening in your world. I just, every time, I won't say her name, somebody was like, oh, but my belly fat or this and that, and be like, bitch, you just did a like 50-pound press or what, you know what I mean? I just like, and I wouldn't call her bitch. She's actually my good friend, but so I probably would, but I'm always like bringing it back to this is what you can do.
Yeah.
So let's focus less on what you look like.
Yeah. Which is so hard.
And I say bitch lovingly. I'm so sorry if I offended people.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's tricky because it's like, it's always what people like are thinking. And that's what typically motivates people. It's like, oh, I gained some weight over the holiday or whatever. This year I want to do this. I want to look different. And it's, do you like, would you now, like, so it seems like back then it was kind of like you just don't talk about it. It's kind of like, sure, that's your goal, but like, let's just talk about this other stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think like now, like recommending to like say trainers that like this, because obviously this is going to be coming up for people, how would you recommend that language? Can it be like, would you say something like let's focus on this movement and see how you feel, or like do you kind of give them your philosophy, or do you
I think a very simple thing to say is all bodies are different, and if you have weight to lose based on like when we start moving, like you will lose that weight. And if you want to check in on your nutrition and like what you're doing, like we will hook you up with an appropriate dietitian and to like get that dialed in. But the reality of the situation is that when you are fueling your body appropriately and when you are moving at an appropriate amount, your body will be at what its most comfortable, healthy state is at. And then that becomes, you've already been working with them for a little while. And if they reach that state and they're still not happy with that, there's deeper conversations that need to be had. You know what I mean? And so like we're trainers and then we're part therapists. And so you get to start to learn about a human being. You get to start to understand that they're, super stressed, or they're in an unhealthy relationship, or they're not in a relationship and they want to be in one, all these things. And so they've summed it all up to thinking that if they change the way that they look, all those things will line up and be in place. And so it's a case by case basis of just working with those human beings and helping them understand that changing the way that they look won't bring on all these other things that they think, and that their healthiest version of themselves is the way that their body is going to be. And so like, how do we work on accepting that and being you don't have to love it. I don't love my body every day. I love what she does for me. I love what, like when she's a badass, and I appreciate that, but I don't look at every ounce of her, especially, these days, and say like, oh, I love it all. I don't. But I appreciate her and I don't talk negatively to her. And I think like that's helping people understand like you can have a neutral relationship with your body. And you can just be grateful for what it does. It's the one body you get.
Yeah. Easier said than done, as you know, obviously. It's not
absolutely easier said than done.
What's interesting as you were saying that, I was like, oh yeah, trainers aren't weight loss experts. Trainers are hopefully movement experts.
Yeah.
And but like, I wonder how many people come to a trainer and say, hey, I want to learn how to move better. I want to start moving.
Yeah. I think these days more and more,
maybe, yeah.
Like absolutely more and more, but no, I think the majority is I'm going to hire a trainer so that I lose weight and, can get this bikini body or whatever it is that I want.
But that's a cool thing to like give trainers right now. Like for any trainers, listen, like to me, at least, I'm like, that's a cool way to think about what you do and how you talk about it. Is like, I'm like a movement expert. I get people to move and feel good in your body and know how to move well and feel better. And
it translates into everyday life. But this is, for so long, I didn't like trainer or personal trainer on my card. So I always had movement coach. I'm a movement coach. Like I will teach you how to move. I'll teach you how to move better. But I think also like that translates into everyday life, like helping human beings come in and like when your clients are coming in, helping them understand when you learn how to move and move better, like your entire life is different because you're moving every single day. So like figure out how to feel better in your body and how to move better.
Yeah, that's cool. Movement. I think we've talked about that, but now in this specific conversation, it makes more sense. It's like, it's calling it what it is from the get-go. Like, I am a movement coach. I'm not a weight loss trainer. I'm not a weight loss coach.
Yeah.
And there are those out there.
Absolutely.
But if that's not you, then don't claim it.
Yeah. And hopefully that's not you.
Yeah. If you're listening, the
Please
message is
don't push that message.
Don't do it.
Please.
Oh my God, we just went on such a long
Tangent.
we didn't even. Let me just see if do we have any? Well, I mean,
we should just call this podcast The Tangent.
Yeah.
It's literally we just go on tangents.
But it's focused tangents. Yeah.
I don't mind it. Hopefully, I mean, if people are listening and mind it, let us know. We'll stay more focused.
I guess there's two things that we could sort of. Whoa, there goes your wallet. For those of you not watching the video, there is Kaisa's wearing these, they're moon boots.
Military
boots. And they're quite large platforms. And then they have an attached wallet of some sort on them, and it just fell off. So sorry for that tangent. Speaking of tangents, okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to be swaggy.
This one's, we're kind of like, we're getting into long mode here, but I feel like this is such a good topic. Just, you're killing it. And so,
thanks.
Social media, because that's something you wanted to bring up. I remember we were talking about earlier, like, how important is it for new trainers to get on social media, and then once they're on there, how do you navigate? Because there's just everybody on social media being a trainer, and like, what would your...
This is such a hard topic, and I will be honest, because I feel like it's almost not fair for me to say, don't worry about social media. But the reality is, don't worry about social media. I came up at a time when I happened to be perfect timing with social media. We were literally at just the beginning of what was happening on Instagram. So when we put that out there, it took off in a way that it will never take off now. It will not take off. And in order for you to be on social media, and I guess, let me pause 1 second and say, I would want to know their purpose to be on social media. Sure. If they wanted to be on social media just because it held them accountable and they enjoyed putting content out there, then great, yes, be on social media. If you are trying to be on social media to be the next trainer that, makes money off of being on social media and selling programs and, getting sponsorships, this and that, I'm here to tell you, like, it's not worth your time and energy. It is a full-time job, and the reality of you growing to a capacity that you have an audience that's buying from you, or you have sponsorships that are paying you, is years down the road. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not very probable. And the reality is, you have to look at like what's sustainable. What do you want to do? Like, if you want to be a trainer to be on social media, maybe you don't want to be a trainer. Maybe you just want to be on social media, and that's a whole nother thing. But if you want to be a trainer, your job is to like train people. Like, go spend your time and energy getting better at training people. Don't worry about social media.
Train first. But I mean, it does seem like social media is like necessary to some extent. Like,
I think social media, if you were a trainer and you were building up your clientele, social media is like a LinkedIn or like a Yelp page. You know what I mean? Like, social media is where people go to vet you, or social media is like, their friends like, hey, I'm training with this awesome trainer. Like, go check out her profile, or you know what I mean? Like, people can get a vibe of you. Yes. But people that do social media for their full-time job, it is their full-time job. It is my full-time job to create content, which means I have zero time to train people. So if I was a trainer, like, you have to be picking what you're doing here. And if you're just thinking about putting all your content on social media because in the hopes at some point in time it's going to pop off and make you a ton of money, it's not. It's literally not. So that's where I'm like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think a lot of people need a reality check about what they're doing. Now, if your entire goal is to be an influencer and you are going to go balls to the wall doing that, like, I never want to get in your path. Like, do you? Like, and there's going to be another platform that comes up, and maybe you're going to be on the first, wave of that platform, and go for it. But if you want to be the best trainer in the world, you're not spending your time and energy trying to create a pop-in social media.
I feel like you were yelling at me for a second.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I just felt kind of like a little scared.
I got aggressive.
You got a little aggressive. Sorry. No, it's cool. You're passionate about that.
I'll watch my tone.
I think, and it seems like it's like, be a trainer first. Mm-hmm. And if you want to do social media, documenting some of that, that's fine. But like, it sounds like what you're saying is, don't think the end result is being a social media trainer.
No.
be the trainer, get good at training, share that stuff.
And don't think that if you are a trainer with a pop-in profile that, let's say you wanted to train athletes, that all of a sudden those athletes are looking at the pop-in profile and going that way. The likelihood of that is, I guess, is very few and far between. I guess you could argue back and say, well, that just happened to you. But I think the reality of the situation is you have to be the best of the best at your craft. And if your craft is training, you got to spend your time, energy, and effort there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because it's a lot of energy to create social media content.
And on the flip, I think if you are someone who's just like, you're doing the training, that's your focus, you're getting better, you're doing all the things, and you're posting on social media, don't let the social media dictate if you're successful or not.
Yes.
Because you get only 10 or 20 or 30 likes or 5 or whatever the comments and likes are, doesn't validate who you are as a trainer. It validates just who's listening to you on social media.
And we've seen this so many times with training. The craziest thing is the thing that goes viral. It's not the smartest thing. It's not like the basics or the fundamentals of movement. It's not so many of the best coaches or the people that I mentored under or learned from don't have pop-in social medias. It doesn't go that way.
Yeah. Which is good. I mean, it's good to understand. I think and I think there's just a lot of people that think, I'm going to go get my cert, I'm going to start my Instagram, and I'm going to crush it. And then I think a month or two later, it's like, okay, that's not working. And then they lose all that passion.
But I think it's just checking in then, because the reality is, what do you want to do? Do you want to be a personal trainer, or do you want to be a social media influencer? Because those two things are very different.
Although it seems like nowadays those two are I think a lot of people think, I mean, even myself, when I was like, I should probably have a social media thing for being a trainer because everyone has to. But I think what I'm hearing is be a trainer, be a trainer, be a trainer.
Yeah, how long did that last, Mike?
No, not long. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Because it's so much energy and effort to create content. You know who does it well? Luca does it well. Because Luca the guy that I'm training with now is a very intelligent trainer, and he has now afforded himself an opportunity for somebody to create the content while he's in his session. So it takes nothing from him. So there are certain opportunities at some point in time that may arise, and you can be in your element, and you can be coaching, and content can be created, and then you might be fueled by then also checking in a few times a week and creating other content. Great.
Yeah.
So be it. But you know what that takes? That takes somebody having a huge capacity for work, somebody being very organized and dedicated to understanding social media and liking that. There's just so many other things that fall into place there. The reason I did well on social media in the beginning is because I did photography, I have this creative background, and I understood what things should look like. I never would have been successful on social media if I didn't pick up right away that having colorful outfits with a cool background and matching moves looked cool. And understanding that what looks cool is what's going to pop off right now. So you can't just put content on social media and think it's going to go.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. And going back to Luca, it's again, he's training first.
He's
Someone
training
else is documenting
24/7.
him training.
Absolutely.
He's not. Yeah, exactly. So he's not setting up. His training isn't setting up the social media posts.
So then let me go back and answer this question. If you are a brand new trainer and you are focused on becoming the best trainer, then you need to focus all of your time, energy, and effort on being the best trainer, which means your internships, your education, your mentors. That's what you need to do, and training clients. If you are a seasoned trainer and you are looking to expand your business, then yes, social media might be important and impactful for you at that time. It's also looking at how can I do social media in a way that represents me or my studio well, but also doesn't take away a lot of time and energy. Maybe that means you have to hire somebody to come in and do it. And everybody is different. So that's a case-by-case basis.
Ooh, with the roundup. Oh. That was so good. It took us a while to get there.
I know, sorry.
Well, that was really good.
I mean, it takes me a while.
Hold on. Here's the answer to the question.
Well, I realize I got to be able to also give people kind of bullet points.
That was
I can't just go on my own tangents about things.
I think that was solid. Okay.
Made me feel good.
This is great. Okay, let's just move on to the last thing, I think, which is big.
Oh, God, what?
How, you want to change the fitness industry. What does the fitness industry look like when it's changed? Because I think
that is a whole podcast in and of itself.
I know, but let's just at least, again, thinking of it seems like we're talking more to newer trainers today.
I think this is a huge. Oh, you're
I was
go.
just gonna say no. I'm not gonna
Okay.
go. You're gonna go. I just want to preface it with like, so knowing, let's just say newer trainers are listening, they're going to be part of how the next generation is training. So I think that's like, if you can kind of think of that.
So I think it's important to just like scope out of it, the bird's eye view here. I think that the health and wellness industry, if it was doing its job, the world would be a healthier place. So I think like that's a huge lofty goal, but I think that's an actual fact. I think that if instead of pushing health looks a certain way, instead of co-signing that people need to move because there's something wrong with their body, if we change our message and really tried to serve the population in terms of helping them be and encourage them to be their healthiest self and put real messaging out there about what that is, I think the world would be a very different place. I also understand that we're never going to be able to fight media and trillions of dollars that pushes all of that. But what we do have is the power as trainers to be one-on-one. We're the ones communicating that information to individuals in sessions. We're the one with the most power in that session to decide not to co-sign a message and to set up environments that push something different. And so I think for me, my number one hope and desire for trainers that are coming in and even trainers that have been here is to have some deep moments with themselves to ask themselves a lot of hard questions about whether or not they feel like they are truly being, healthy trainers, whether or not they are truly embodying what it means to, be a health and wellness coach to their clientele. And a lot of that means trainers have to get real with ourselves. Like, are we healthy? Is our relationship with movement and food and, our mental health, like, is that healthy? Because I'm standing in front of people, and if I'm not healthy, I'm actually spewing my bullshit onto them. You know what I mean? So like, am I in a good space to be working with people and to have that power to like really influence people? And am I influencing them the right way? Because there is a right and a wrong way. And period. Influencing people, to lose weight because there's something wrong about their body is the wrong way, like, period. And I feel very passionate about that.
So let's talk about the right way instead of talking about the wrong way.
Yeah.
Let's give them like 3 things at least. So how would you, like, what's the messaging? So talking about, we change the messaging.
It goes back to all things we set up. I mean, all things we already talked about. Set up an environment where human beings are coming in to learn about their body. Set up an environment where they feel successes throughout that 30 minutes or that hour that you work with them, that they feel they walk out of that more empowered. And don't co-sign their issues. I think the number one thing is like to understand they are going to come in to your sessions with those issues, with wanting to lose weight or wanting to change something or, being, unhappy about their body. Don't co-sign it. Don't co-sign it. You don't have to I learned the hard way. You don't have to say they're not the clients for you. You also don't have to be like, no, everything's perfect, because everything might not be perfect for them, but you just don't have to co-sign it. Because it's so, when you think about having a conversation with your friend and there's something you're insecure about and you're like, oh my God, but my nose is just so big. And they're like, oh God, your nose is big. That fucks you up.
Yeah.
Instead, when they're like, really, Mike? Well, actually, this happens to me a lot. But really, Kaisa? You're not your fucking nose, okay? Literally, that's what you want to pick up? You're not your damn nose, move on. You got a lot of other great qualities. Who cares? And if somebody's judging you for your goddamn nose, they're the wrong person to hang out with. That's the type of trainer with better language, but that's the type of energy and attitude that I have with my clients.
Yeah. It's interesting. Now we're sort of this big picture. I'm realizing our last episode, or one of our episodes, talking about the core values of Just Move are kind of all to change the fitness industry, movement, or what is it? Health is
a feeling, not a look.
Feeling, not a look. So that's if we could change that.
Movement is fun.
Movement is fun.
We celebrate first steps and next steps.
So that's kind of create the environment, right?
And a community based on joy, not judgment.
So I mean, actually, I didn't even put that together. That is, if the future of health and wellness, if that's not just our core principles, get those core principles.
Yes. All of those.
That
Absolutely.
would be huge.
Yeah, because I think the thing is I think so many more trainers would be so passionate passionate and empowered by what they were doing if they started to embody those things. Because the thing is, the reality is you feel good in like one moment of your client being like, I lost 5 pounds, when you know that that's not sustainable. They probably are not going to be able to continue working with you because the next week they're going to gain those 5 pounds back. Then they're going to be mad. Like, it's a sick cycle that trainers are on. It feels so different because we're fed off of our clients being like, I am a bad bitch, come through. I just deadlifted 200 pounds. I never thought I'd be able to do a push-up. I just did a full push-up. Like, that is crazy energy, and that is sustainable. They will continuously come back. If you want to be a successful trainer, it means you have to keep your clients coming back for more. You know how to keep them coming back for more? Set up performance results-based environments where they're constantly empowered by what their body is doing. That's how you keep your clients. I'm sorry, but like, we should have made this a 2-hour podcast because I love this.
It basically is.
Oh gosh.
Shit, I think we end there. That was too good.
This.
Yeah. I realize, I think it's because there is no round table between us. You get a little bit more aggressive. I feel like I might need to get like a little safety.
Barrier?
Yeah, just for safety.
But it's only when we're talking about, it's only when I get to talk to trainers, and it's only when we're talking about the industry. I obviously come with a lot of passion when we talk about the industry. I also I really enjoy being able to talk to trainers and feeling like the audience today is trainers, hopefully, because I think that's what's going to be most powerful. I think what's going to be the change is when a whole bunch of us trainers are on the same page about wanting to do something different.
Yeah.
And I think that's when the change happens. So I get riled up about trying to get trainers, trying to get us all on the same page.
Well, and when you've discovered this thing like that, is so true to you, and you see how it's affected so many people, like, of course you want to share that with more people. Like, don't go
changes lives. Like, literally changes lives. And somebody's life that has changed me being a healthier version of myself also helps to change my family members, my friends. Like, it continuously changes. And that's why I always say, like, I feel like with the training industry, with the health and wellness industry, when we own that power, when we just decide one day to be like, oh, I'm not going to fight media anymore. I'm not going to fight this sex sells culture and whatever this bullshit is that they want to sell. I'm just going to own the power that I have. The world will literally be a different place.
Yeah.
And I am just praying and working my ass off towards us all getting to that moment.
Step by step.
Step by step.
Day
movement
by day.
movement. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
I think we end there. That was like,
wow.
I didn't know what we were going to have today, and I feel like you unleashed
the beast. Well, I enjoyed talking, I feel like, to trainers about the industry. So if that is something that if anyone is listening today and enjoys this topic, I think that we could have more of them because I think it's amazing. But I also just want to hear from trainers. Like, if there's questions or comments or feedback, I would love, because I can go on my own tangents. Some could be like, you're way in left field and wrong about that. Pull it back in and explain that differently.
Yeah, totally. And, just we want to also encourage people to subscribe.
Oh,
I realized the other day.
Sorry.
Leave a review.
Leave
a comment.
Subscribe.
No, seriously though, like in the comments, I was super excited because we launched this new version, I guess, of the podcast, and it's cool seeing like comments on YouTube and because it's a great place where we can engage with people.
Absolutely. And learn. And this podcast is definitely about engaging so that we're having conversations that people want to hear and listen to.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, to everybody that tuned in, thank you for coming along with this apparently wild and aggressive ride that I was on today. We don't have no round table, so thank you for joining us, and we'll see you back on the couch very soon.
Peace.